Thank you so much for being a part of the afterglow of the first of 7 sparkling conversations. And we're ironing out the kinks, and I'm just really glad that we're here together. And it's just such a pleasure. Jean, I hear are you actually in Crestone?
No, I'm here in Taos.
Oh, in Taos. Oh, I'm so glad. But you're familiar with the area, you're familiar with Crestone, and you listened to our conversation.
Is
Uh,
it recorded? But can I go back and listen to it because I got on due to technical issues late?
it is recorded. It's on Facebook. The recordings are streamed, so they're part of Facebook Live. And so you can, well, Lisa, when Lisa gets here, we'll prevail on her knowledge because she's a part of the panel. And so she's going to come and join us. And before she gets away, and she's already turned off her camera, Josette isn't going to be able to stay the whole time, but I do want to highlight her presence at the moment, and maybe she'll be able to drop back in before she goes and have a conversation with us. But here's Lisa. She has joined us, and that's wonderful. Lisa, the question came up about the recordings and where people can access previous presentations of EarthStock.
So there are some recordings up on their YouTube page and or their YouTube channel. You can definitely see all the interviews that have been happening in the last couple of weeks. The other place to go is the Facebook page, EarthStock's Facebook page. And there again, you'll see all of the interviews. You'll also see lots of pictures of things that are going on. Recordings of these specifically, I know, are going to be available on Regenerative TV in the future. I'm not exactly sure when. And I think those will be the places.
Yeah. Regen Media. Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Regen Media TV. Exactly.
Hi, Stan.
This is really fun, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to do this. Lisa, would you like to come and join me? Because we're in the same room, and I'm going to take my earbuds out, and we can hear you properly. And
can you still hear me? Hi.
Because it's not all that much fun trying to remember to mute and unmute so that the audio works out well. And it's just such a joy to have Lisa here in Crestone with me. We didn't drive down together, but I've known her for 20 years. And there was a period in between where she went to school and she did all sorts of amazing things like writing a book. And so to be able to reconnect with her and have her a part of the sparkling conversations is a true pleasure. But before we get into letting her talk anymore, I want to say as a segue, how much I have appreciated having the participation of Tammy Hay and Connie Baxter Marlowe in this conversation. And I do want to shine a little light right now on Mary Thorpe. I want to thank you for that summary of what we heard. You have to get in here. Oh, you're going to go over there. Okay. Yeah. And I'm not, we're going to have to figure out the audio. It's just the way it's going to be. Mary, your summary was so appreciated and so good. I really appreciate your ability to present that in such a good way. I also want to honor you and your granddaughter being able to spend time together on Zoom. This is a new way of teaching that, in Humanity Rising, we're doing it, but you are doing it on Zoom with your granddaughter. And I really feel that we need to be aware of that as grandmothers and grandfathers, that we don't need to go and be in their space and they don't need to be in our space to be able to have conversations that matter. So thank you so much.
Can I say just a little bit more about that? So people who didn't hear.
Yeah.
So my granddaughter lives in Florida. I live in West Virginia. And I met a woman in 2019, who taught children music in the LA school systems. And then she went to teaching privately. Well, she'd been teaching privately, but exclusively. And so I said to her, well, could I hire you to teach my granddaughter? So she said, yes. And my granddaughter was 3.5 at the time. She's now 8. And so I had a weekly call with my granddaughter and the teacher for all those years until she was just before she turned 7, when she was going to France for the summer to be with her grandmother there. And I was missing so much this regular conversation. And they hardly ever talk on the phone. So to get them on the phone was, like conversations like we used to have. So anyway, her mother just let me know that she's homeschooling my granddaughter this year. And I wrote back immediately to say, is there anything I can provide? Not having thought through anything. And she didn't, she didn't have any thought. And I said, oh, maybe I could spend an hour a week with her. And her mother wrote back and said, oh, what a great idea. So we begin tomorrow at 10 o'clock Eastern. And all of this happened, by the way, talk about trusting and listening to the universe. All of this has happened since we created that I would come and on today. And I didn't think anything. I mean, I just didn't give it any thought. I didn't care. Really, I didn't care what the subject was. I was just interested in participating. And then when I came on today, I went like, oh, isn't that interesting? This whole thing is about the future of education. It's like, talk about the perfection of the universe, that this whole thing has emerged since you and I set this up. Anyway, I'm very excited about it. And I have been one who, I should say, the work that I do, I'm a designer. I've worked in fashion and architecture and art. And the work that I do now is collaborate as a designer with visionaries and leaders in designing conversations that shape the future of humanity. Wow. So I don't care if it's railroads and supply chain to education, to the way we live together. I was going to say politics and religion. It's like one of my questions that came up today was when you were talking, Lisa, well, several of you, about the school system and bringing our values in. But things are moving in that direction, but it doesn't look like anything like what I want with religion. It's like, how do we distinguish this whole conversation of values from the control and boxes of all the different places we've been, separation, moving to you and me? So that's one of the questions I have that might open some things up for us to say.
Well, thank you so much, Mary. I'm going to invite Josette to have a say in that. And I know she has another meeting that she must go to, and I'm hoping that she has a few moments to address that or other issues. So Josette, please.
Well, thank you. My message is the same thread. So thank you so much, Mary, for bringing in the participation. You are making in your grandchildren's education. You speak something that's very close and near and dear to my heart, because I have had the grace of living with my two grandchildren in one big household. And I have to say that the contributions that my husband and I have been able to make to their lives has been invaluable. There's just no comparison that, you know, to be able to share with them the notion that they are in charge of their own lives, that they have choice, that their consciousness is within their capability to shift, and to recognize and listen to them and recognize who they are, what their talents are, what their contributions are, what their potential is, and support that as grandparents, as elders. Very, very important. I do want to also say that Transformative Learning Foundation, which is one of the organizations that I work with, is hosting an elders wisdom sharing that will happen 11 o'clock Pacific time. And I put the Zoom link on there if anybody wanted to join. And I don't want to, I think there's a little bit of an overlap with this. I hope there's not too much. But these are elders from indigenous cultures that are willing to share their wisdom with us. And so I'm always open and available to receiving and learning, lifelong learning. It just never ends. I'm learning from my grandchildren as much as I am from the elders. So I invite you all to join me there as well. Thank you.
Yeah, you know, we can multiply ourselves by recording ourselves, but how we multiply ourselves in order to be in different places at the same time, we haven't perfected that yet, darn it. But it's, you know, the thing is that we are becoming aware that this is a subject that we need to talk about. And so having the indigenous people talking about this as well, and sharing it on Zoom, making it available to other people. This is so important and encouraging, because changing the world takes us all. And it is an exciting time to be alive and involved. And thank you so much, Josette, for coming and being a part of this while going and being a part of that. And you're part of the recording, and that's going to be a part of the ongoing legacy of EarthStock. And
it's an honor and a pleasure. Thank you.
Absolutely. I look forward to humanity rising, being more of a presence in our own lives, and other networks, like I mentioned in the other conversation. It's Stan Pockris is in the room, and I do want to shine a bit of light on him, because Stan, you changed my life. You changed my world. You know, first it was Jim Garrison who changed my life after my life was rudely changed by the pandemic lockdown. With humanity rising coming in, my world expanded, and every day it expanded. And then you stepped in with your invitation to come to your place after the class was over. And my community expanded. And thank you so much. Truly, you know, and I mentioned this is the awakening of, or the dawning of the age of helpfulness in the, did you hear me say that?
I did. I did, and I appreciate it.
I'm so proud of you and the work that you've done and the work that we're going to be doing together, because we have got, and I'm going to say this in public, we need help. We are creating the AI that will lead us into the way of creating the library for the wisdom of humanity rising. And we are going to bring the presenters into more sparkling conversations. And we're figuring this out as we go. We don't know how it's going to work, but I have a team that is falling together because that is pulling together because of EarthStock. You know, you don't know what the catalysts are going to be in your life until you're in the middle of them. And you know, sometimes they look really nasty, like the pandemic. And sometimes it's like a car accident. And sometimes, you know, sometimes you come up with an inspiration, calling it magic in ordinary moments. You know, mom doesn't always show up in a positive way, but, you know, she's always there guiding us, and learning to watch for the guidance that mom gives us helps us to get in alignment with her weavings. And so she doesn't have to get drastic with us with car accidents and other things. Instead, she can play with us and show us numbers when it's important for us to pay attention, and other things. You know, the indigenous people used to watch for the direction that a bird would fly, or the way that a stick broke, or what animal they first saw in the mornings. But we don't have that kind of input in our daily lives. And so I invited spirit to play with me through the numbers that I see in my daily opening of a new device, and I'll see 1111 or 1234. And these have become the signposts in my life. And Connie's got her hand up, and I want to welcome you to come in and say hi.
Yeah, Shannon, I love this topic you've brought up of trusting, watching the signs of the universe. So you mentioned the indigenous with the birds flying, whatever, but the universe speaks to us in signs. If we watch and listen and act on what we hear and what we see, and knowing that it is a conscious, loving universe that is guiding us on our soul's journey to wholeness. This is our work. This is how we frame it. And that car accident, that ancestor, that relative dying who was going to give you the money to go to college, and you don't get to go to college, you know, because your soul said you're going to come in and be a poet that wasn't going to be served by going to college. You know, that, you know, we make these contracts when we incarnate to go on this journey and to bring this gift to the party. And then we come into this culture that says, oh no, you're supposed to do this, 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 and this. But the universe says, no, you're going to do that, 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 and that. And you're, because you already made that promise, and the whole universe is waiting for that gift that you promised to bring to the party. So I just want to say that thank you for bringing that in, and that takes us beyond right and wrong and good and evil and victim and perpetrator. So you really nailed it, girl, as far as our gift with the trust frequency and our 10 assumptions for a new paradigm. So I just wanted to give a shout out for
Connie,
that perspective.
Connie, I've got to say that Lisa put a note in the chat saying that it's 1:11, as Connie reminds us that the universe speaks in signs. Thank you, Lisa. That's delightful. And mom is on our side and watching us, and very happy.
We just have to act on what we hear. That's the key, the action piece. So we just need to trust it enough to act. A bold, committed action puts us in that frequency that the universe is guiding us to.
Somebody else who does bold, committed action is Janice Hall. And Janice, I love to see you on my screen. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, are you inviting me to say something?
I certainly am.
Well, I was outside with my handmade weed killer of vinegar and dish soap and salt with my phone in my pocket listening all morning long. And when you were talking about education, and of course, here comes the lawnmower people. I'm sorry if it's noisy, but I remember something that I did that was, I had no idea how it was going to turn out, but back in 2012, before the days of Zoom, I was living in Princeton, New Jersey, and I was on the board of the Blue Ocean Sciences, and we collaborated with the Schmidt Ocean Institute and did a journey. It's a longer story, as they all are, from the Canary Islands to Bermuda. And at the time, we were doing the Princeton Environmental Film Festival, which I was also on the board of. So I got this idea to well, I met with the principal of the local school, grade school, John Witherspoon School in Princeton. And I had this idea, didn't know if it would work, to do a Skype. So we had 200 seventh graders in the auditorium and me on the stage with a great big screen behind me. And believe it or not, we were able to Skype in the ship called the USS Lone Ranger from the Bermuda Triangle after a storm. The waves were just amazing. And it was a science expedition bringing oceanographers and plastic scientists and NASA scientists and geoscientists together to look at microbes who were living on plastic in the ocean, degraded plastic. And they were eating the plastic and giving off energy. So this expedition was to collect plastics and explore these microbe energy releases as a potential energy source. But we were actually able, the scientists brought their computers out to the decks. And of course, on Skype, just like here, you could see yourself. So the kids started screaming and standing on their seats in the auditorium because they couldn't believe their eyes. And so the scientists gave this tour of the ship and explained what they were doing. And afterward, the principal came to me and he said, "You just changed my whole worldview of education and how we can, bring in live education to the students." And it was so fun because there was a couple of moments there we didn't know if it would happen, because back in 2012, the technology for this kind of interaction wasn't at the level that it is now, but it was. And I first did a presentation on plastics, is what I did to open it. And I had a slide presentation that I showed on the screen to the auditorium of kids to prep them for the plastic pollution problem and why we were doing this expedition with the Schmidt Ocean Institute. So I just wanted to share that. And it's so exciting to see that this is now becoming, not because of me, but just in general, part of the education system in forward-thinking schools, and should be in more schools. Because they're still learning with computers, but they're learning vis-a-vis, static programs, as opposed to this kind of interaction where the kids could actually ask questions and see themselves on the screen. And so I just wanted to share that.
Oh, Janice, thank you so much. This is one of the most important parts of our conversation today, is how we change what is into what is needed. And truly what you're bringing is exactly what is needed. And what I want to add to that is, how do we ensure that all of the children in the world get an opportunity, access to the same kind of information, and whatever kind of information that interests them, that pulls them onto their pathway, that they are here to dance down.
Let me just say that I do work with kids in high schools and colleges on climate education with the Environmental Education Fund, which I'm on the board of. And that what we do is we go to the kids. So we get the activists in both high school and college, and we ask them what they want to hear. And I think one of the keys is to set up intergenerational dialogue. And it's been mentioned here before that it's not up to us to say this is what you need to learn, because there's a whole different kind of learning than when we went to school. You know, they set up classes like with 20-minute attention span, and now it's more like 5 seconds for attention, yet we're still teaching them in the same way. So we need to, you know, listen to what they want and then provide them this interactive dialogue is what we try to do, and bring them, you know, real life opportunities to participate with wisdom keepers and people who've been around the block a little bit, and say, you know, this is what we did. How does this work for you? What would you like to see? Because so many of them, as we know, are frightened to death of their future. And there's 3 different, you know, this is just my version being a marketing and trends expert, but I've not seen anybody else break it down into these 3. So you've got a sad group of kids who do not fit in and they're suicidal, and that's frightening. And then you've got those who don't fit in and they totally escape into the virtual world and they don't know how to live in the real world. And then you've got the group of activists who say, whatever, we want to participate, show us how, but you need to listen to us first. So how do we weave those together? Because we're leaving 2 groups behind, and let them know that, you know, we've overcome so many challenges starting back in the 60s and 70s, and that can help you, but it's a brave new world. So how do we weave in what we've learned with what you feel you need to learn? So I'll just
I
stop right
love that, Janice. I believe what this is inviting for us is that we have more of these kind of conversations, because I have been really energized by the possibilities and acknowledging the challenges and seeing what has come up, the sparks that have flown because of our conversation. And I know Stan's hand is up, but Mary's is up.
Let me just say one more thing.
Oh, yes.
Where's
Okay,
your youth
Janice.
delegation at EarthStock?
Hey,
Because when I
what?
worked with John Denver, and I know that Connie remembers this from the WinStar years with John Denver and Aspen, there was always, you know, the Earth, what was it? Because the Earth, what were they called? The Earth what delegation? They were what were they called? Earth something. We worked with them, and they were
Earth
the
ambassadors, Earth ambassadors.
Earth ambassadors, yeah, the Earth ambassadors. And so we brought in kids from the inner cities of LA who were former gang members, from the kids in New York City. And, you know, they lived in teepees, they whatever, but you know, I'm not seeing, we talk about the intergenerational dialogues, but I'm not seeing them present in most of the work that we're doing on these, you know, global Zooms to change the planet. And so I just want to put that into the melting pot of ideas on how to make that realistic and get the youth delegations to participate in.
Well, I completely agree. And on that note, Lisa is jumping into action to find the episode of EarthStock that has to do with that, because it is women and youth today. So there is another presentation, at least one more presentation, online broadcast about about youth or by youth. And Mary, you're very patient.
I'm so excited. Janice, will you put your information into so we know how to get a hold of you? I recognize all those things that you're talking about, Aspen and John Denver and the Hunger Project and all that stuff that was done. But I wanted to say, I live, as I said, in this little community in West Virginia. And it never occurred to me, like the state has taken over our educational system because somebody who was the superintendent or in the administration stole money embezzled money during it's challenging to look to see the perfection of this in the whole scope of things. But I totally trust that it's perfect. And one of the things that I wanted to say is Humanity Rising has given access to all of us globally connecting with each other. Sitting here in Rock Cave, West Virginia, population dwindling 20% every year, starting at 800. So you can imagine what we're down to. And, it's like, how do I participate? Nobody really trusts anything I say. So I keep supporting people who have the ear of people in my community. Anyway, it's a very interesting place to have found myself for 22 years. But this Humanity Rising is such an awesome place to have connected with so many people. And I wanted to remind also that the first 8 days of Humanity Rising in May of 2020 was all women, followed by 8 days of youth having the platform to speak into. And it was so interesting because they didn't show up when they said they were going to, because they didn't think they had anything to say. And it was the most wonderful opportunity to empower people, and this was just at the beginning of this whole transformation that we've all been through together. And then I wanted to ask Josette, being in her household of intergenerations, the difference between how it was when she was raising her children and then now having the impact of being with and learning from her grandchildren. So I hope I'll have the opportunity to ask her that. But the one other thing I wanted to share is my 44-year-old son, who's the eldest of my 3 children. I sometimes call them offspring. And anyway, I just spent 8 days with him in Florida, and over the eclipse. And it was one of the most fascinating periods of my life. I planned to be there for 3 or 4 maybe days. And I said when I got back home, it was like the best of times and the worst of times. But one of the things that happened out of that 8 days together, first we saw it's the first time, the longest time we had spent together since he was 12 years old when he moved to live with his father. But what he said to me is, I really don't need a mom anymore, but I would really like to be friends. And then I got home and was interacting with him from how I consider friends. And I noticed how upset I was because he was not responding, and it was like no different. So I had a conversation with him and said, well, I noticed that I was like really upset because I have this expectation about being friends. And I thought, oh, I wonder what you think being friends is. Maybe we would be useful for us to open that conversation. He said, oh, that's a good idea. So since April 8th, we're now April, May, June, July, August, so about 4 months. We are in a conversation like he said to me, I can see I'm a terrible friend. And he's like totally shifted things for himself. And part of what made me think of it to share about it is he sends notes that say 1111 or 222. And so he started taking care of himself. And he said, I decided that how could I be a better friend to someone else than I am to myself? So, to have all of these things showing up and to be able to share with each other about them, is what I find really valuable about being here. Thank you, everybody.
I am very, very pleased that you are here with us, Mary. And I am deeply grateful for the experiences that you have gone through, that you have shared with us, because these are, this is how we get to know right action, is by sharing the things that we have bumped up against and found a way around. We are way showers. And I truly appreciate you being a part of this. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shannon.
Absolutely. Lisa, I see your hand up, but you know what? Stan had his hand up and it went down, and I want to bring him in.
Okay. What I was reacting to at the moment was you saying that we want to make sure that the kids all have access to the same information. Whoops. That's just the opposite of what I believe.
Okay.
The kids all need to have access to all the information, and they need us, the rest of humanity, to help them find the things that they're most interested in. So I'm about to write into the chat. Okay.
Yes.
Can I say what I was saying?
Yes.
I'm about to write in the chat that one aspect of being helpful to other people is to identify the things that they're interested in and help them locate other things that make sense to encourage or develop their ideas, or take them into another realm where their ideas are shown to be totally incorrect. And why? Because if what you're doing is helping other people learn, I think that's about the height of helpfulness.
And you know what else, Stan? I have to be okay with the idea that Mom is guiding me by the mistake, but guiding the conversation by the mistakes that come out of my mouth, because I really didn't mean that they all need to have the same information, because that's basically what we've been given, is the same information, but only this much of it. And so I am so deeply in agreement with what you say. It is what I'm trying to get to is that they deserve access to all information and to be able to follow the threads that pull them in the direction that their heart wants them to go. And thank you so much for bringing that in. And thank you so much for other networks. And we'll get into all of that later. Lisa, come on in. Thank you for your patience.
Oh, no problem. I was
just wanting to let everyone know that we are having a youth council at EarthStock. That youth council is the voices of the 7 generations youth council. Happens at 5 p.m. tonight. It's at the conference center, which is actually right behind us. And it's going to be led by Wandley Black Elk. So she is the great granddaughter of Chief Black Elk. Yeah, so I'm excited for that one.
Do I get to go?
Yeah, we don't get picked up till 6:30, so we're here.
The time is just, it's a torrent, and I'm trying to stay afloat in this torrent of time, doing the best I can. And I'm so grateful. And I just missed conversing with my friend Jude. She came and left her camera off, and then she flashed on for a moment, and then she was gone. And she said she'll be back tomorrow, and I look forward to that conversation. But I am not going to make the same mistake with Ellen, because Ellen is here on my camera and on my screen, and I want to welcome Ellen. I'm going to ask, did you hear the sparkling conversation that we've had with our panelists?
Yes, I did, Shannon.
Excellent.
That was
do you have any
wonderful.
Feedback for us? What do you think?
Well, I've been working with psychic and intuitive children since
around 2000, and really recognizing that they were being labeled and still are, but with labels like ADHD, ADD, dyslexia, OCD, et cetera, and just having an understanding, because in some ways, I wasn't diagnosed with anything, but I was a soul that in fact came to incarnate on the planet with a spiritual and have become a visionary. I now, after many years, recognize my role. So, it's interesting, Crestone, because it was actually in Crestone with Hannah Strong in 1997, after I had actually done a keynote at the Kripalu Center, and I had the words came, to basically bring together a team of people for 2,000 people in the year 2000, in business, politics, science, government, health, education, the arts, and the leaders from all the major spiritual traditions. And I was going to visit Hannah, Hannah Strong, and she said to me, and I was staying with her, and she said to me something, well, what about 2001 and 2001? And so the 2001 Summit on Spirituality and Sustainability happened. We had a youth council at that time. We had an Indigenous Leaders Council. It was completely co-creative process. And in the end, over 4,000 people showed up from September 15th to 22nd, 2001. Wow. So about that time, I started working with the children who had been labeled, and understanding, and through exercises, there were various things that I developed, understood, that they could read books and magazines and newspapers blindfolded without their eyes. And when I would ask them, so I would have intergenerational workshops with grandparents, parents, children. And if I asked, and I'm a scientist by training, so a wildlife biologist, and worked for over a decade until I had my own adult spiritual wake-up call. And, when I'd ask them, well, how do you read books and magazines and without your eyes, magazines, because they would be blindfolded, they said, so many said, I focus on it with my eye, or I focus on it with my third eye, and I read the screens inside my head. And so by asking children questions, I've had a real education in their multidimensional ways of knowing, which is where I believe we are right now. And so, and I've always said to parents, a lot of times children were having behavioral issues, but it was only because each one was a soul who hadn't been recognized. Yeah. Who hadn't had recognition on the planet. And as soon as they were recognized, those things that adults were perceiving as, this child has a behavioral issue and it's acting out, those behaviors just dissolve, because those are still the symptoms of the deeper issue of not being recognized, and not not being directed towards what were their passions, because a lot of those are not, they're not in mainstream education. So there were children who were like crystal grid masters, but nobody says or even tries to discover that, because it's just not in the box of the mainstream. So I always felt like, and I'd say to parents, well, we don't need children who think like we do. We don't. What are we all doing? What have we all done in the generations in the last, couple hundred years? We've managed to reap havoc and destruction on our planet because of our lack of understanding of the spiritual laws. And some of these children can remember their past galactic lifetimes. They embody them. Nobody asks them which star system they came from. That became a part of my work. If a child, if you ask certain questions, then a child can indicate to you something. We would look at a star map. Sometimes they would point out where they come from. So I believe that that's where we're going, and we need to really start implementing all of this into you know, I'm not even going to call it alternative education. It has to do with education that we've been doing for millennia before this particular age in time. And it's where we're going, and it's what we need, because everything happens more rapidly. And it's really the way of bringing in the higher consciousness. And when a child can basically read books and magazines and newspapers blindfolded without their eye and can read at a distance, there are no more military secrets in the world, period.
Absolutely.
It's just there, you know, it can only be the path to peace. That's what when I realized what are the implications for this, we can use our gifts in any way, shape, or form. It's our own choice. That's what we do have choice in. But can we create the structures, and I'm not going to call them containers, but the open space for children to be who they really truly are, and provide those options for them, and when we find out what their passions are, by exposing them to a wide range of things. And the great thing about a lot of, you know, for me, the children who have landed, now they're youth, now they've grown up, I've got incredible stories because I've seen what's happened over time. You know, that those options, they're encouraged to go in that direction. And when everybody's living in their heart and using their mind as a tool, and their psychic and intuitive and healing gifts as a tool, I can't imagine even what kind of incredible, you know, inspired future we're going to have when everybody's, you know, joined in unity and bringing together all of this through time, through space. That's where we're.
I know.
You.
And no. I love what you're saying, and so does everybody else. What you're talking about is so important. How did you come? Do you know about Humanity Rising?
Well, I think we were together, Shannon, I think on my brother, Chief Phil Lane. We've been brother and sister. We've journeyed through time together. And so I think I heard about Humanity Rising, but I didn't I'm just kind of,
because what we want to do is include you in the family, pull you in. We want to have you present with Jim on the main program, Humanity Rising, and then pull you gently into the after chat. And we want you.
Invite you.
Right. And we invite you. Thank you so much, Mary. You're so much more articulate than I am. And Stan's got his hand up and he's excited too. Come on in.
Yeah, I love what Ellen's saying. And what I've been calling the age of helpfulness, that helpfulness is not the broad enough term, actually. What we all need to be is to recognize that our best use of our time and our energy is in helping.
Oh, Stan, you all of a sudden you're muted. Stop that.
Somebody hit the wrong button, but it wasn't me.
Okay.
The nature of our society has to be, we all feel like everybody else's librarian. Families, one of the main function of a sibling, not just a sibling, a spouse, is in memory of the shared experience. And I mean, it probably something you notice when you talk to people, that the one of a couple will fill the words in for the other. And oh well, who was it that we were with when we did this or that? And the shared memory of the planet has to become understood. We need to understand that we are the shared memory of each other's piece of what has happened and what is happening and what we have learned. And it bothers me to some extent to notice that scientific literature is bespeckled with the names of the scientists that wrote this idea or that idea, and they have this book or that paper, and well, that's their keys. Those terms are category keys that put together a person's body of understanding, and so other people can understand. Well, if I say, well, in the case of our existence here in this particular conversation, that mom has a certain meaning based on Shannon's philosophy, and we all actually have to live by that because that's what actually happens in the world. We are presented with opportunities, and we can benefit from paying attention. And it's the paying attention part, paying attention to the things that happen and working to bring them together, the opportunities of what is happening. And that's why the world will be so much more interesting as everybody starts to realize that they have a role in helping those around them to share the world and share the air. I'm trying to find out how to make a song out of let's all share the air and give kids a sense of sharing. Okay, sharing is really the most incredible thing that we do. Sharing, and if we start by saying, well, the air is free, let's share it, and everything else should be free too, and share it. And so that's a place to start.
Well,
write a song.
It's a very good place to start. And I want to let you know that we have an AI genius here in Crestone who's working with us. And he has created an EarthStock theme, and it's wonderful. He uses AI.
Yeah.
And so you need to talk, and you have already spoken with Michael Camp. He's the guy.
Okay.
And I'm planning on having more interaction with him. And so we will have this conversation. I look forward to that. It sounds like a meme in the making.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have a problem with pointing everything to AI. It's not AI that's important. It's the global knowledge, the global understanding, the world mind, that, and of course the tools that will include these inventions that humanity has been creating that expand our capacity to hold information. I mean, the AI certainly can have every single Shakespeare play, all in every single word, and all the others too, to be able to reference when an idea needs to be supported with what other people have had to say about it. And that's what we do. We support each other's ideas by quoting. And no one person can hold all the quotes. So we have to have a global universal knowledge system, knowledge base.
Yeah, Wikipedia started it. But it has
it started with journals.
It started with
physicians writing journals to each other.
No, Stan, because you were there at the beginning of it. Your legacy that you have developed throughout your lifetime. I'm so thrilled that you and I have become friends and that we are working together in
allies
in creating what is what we see as a gift for the next generations until the completion of time.
I just ran into a little video on the role of the special women, and you were one of these special women, and I'll share that video at another time. It's it's really quite beautiful. It shows that the women that are most independent and not necessarily the most vocal are the most powerful. Independence and self-accepting. I am what I am.
And I appreciate who you are. And it has been a divine pleasure to be a part of this sparkling conversation and the afterglow. My mind has now kind of shifted because I noticed that Janice Hall has put in an invitation saying, I hope you will all stay to hear the next panel of the Divine Feminine. My sisters, Tracy Ash from Egypt, where I've been, who has a World Water Library in Luxor and is psychic, and our sister Anasuya and a couple of other women. And so I do want to encourage you to stay. And I also want to say that I need to close the recording of this. And I believe that the only way that I'm going to get it to download on my computer is if the Zoom room is closed. And so I need Marco. Can you help us out with how we do this transition, my dear?
All we can do is I can close the room and then open it right back up. Takes under a minute, and everyone will just have to, come right back that wants to.
Is that okay with everybody? I do want to do a soft transition rather than him immediately turning it all off.
You can't download a recording without it finishing
a hard stop.
Yes, that's
okay,
right.
but I'll do a
Zoom
soft close to the hard stop.
Okay.
Because I do want to thank Connie and Lisa are my two last presenters. Connie, thank you so much for coming and being a part of this panel. I know you're sitting in your mobile home, meaning it's a camper on wheels, and that you have come from your home in oh, come and talk to me about it, Connie. It's one Sunrise Ranch. And it was saved from the fire, and I'm so glad. And you came here, and thank you.
Oh, well, Shannon, it's great to be here at the Mystic House in Crestone, and just looking forward to more adventures with this family that's been called together here and online. So the beat goes on with the evolutionary upward spiral to peace on earth and heaven on earth, and yay! And Ellen, I love what you brought to it, and just it's what's up, and so we carry on.
Thank you so much, honey.
Hello, it's a pleasure to be here with you.
Oh, I just
Shannon, you
want
need to
say a
turn your
real
mic
quick,
on if you want to keep moving your
real
mouse.
quick, say hello to Erica before we cancel the meeting. Hi, Erica. It's beautiful to see you.
I'm unmuted. Is that all right? I just wanted to say I had the pleasure of being at your presentation this morning. Thank you so much, all of you, for the wisdom. And I'm jumping back and forth between the Global Fire Room and here. So bear with me as I come in and out, but I have to be here to support you all.
Well, I want to shine a little light on you, Erica, because you're going to be on Wednesday's conversation. And I'm really looking forward to that. This whole process of creating the sparkling conversations has been such an adventure. I know I wanted you on so badly that I got Jim to have you on Humanity Rising because of my self-induced guideline that you had to be a presenter on Humanity Rising to be a part of the sparkling conversations. And then here we are with Lisa on the panel, and she's not. But I want to thank you, Erica, because it was so enlightening to have you present on Humanity Rising. And it was the catalyst, the sparkling conversations being a presenter on Humanity Rising was the catalyst for you presenting there. And I'm so glad you did. the work that you're doing in the world is so important. And thank you so much. I look forward to Wednesday. And I do now I'm not going to give you any time to talk right now. People have to come back and talk on Wednesday. I want to slide over to Lisa because I'm aware of the time, because we do want to have the time to shut this down and then reopen it in time for the Divine Feminine panel. So Lisa, would you like to have a final comment?
Oh, you put me on the spot. Yes, do you want to mute yourself? I really want to turn your volume down. Sorry, guys. I really want to say that I think there is a lot of time and effort and energy being put into the future of education. And one thing that didn't get talked about is universal design for learning. And that is basically saying that there is no such thing as normal. There is no such thing as average. Education needs to be individual for the person, for the spirit, for the soul. And I think that we are moving in that direction. It's starting to happen. And if we keep going in that direction, I mean, miracles are going to happen because this next generation is amazing. So
I think so too.
I think you're muted.
Technology, we're gonna get it tomorrow.
Oh, there's no promises. And because I could hear myself just fine. I'm so thrilled to be a part of this. And thank you, Lisa, for coming all the way from Vancouver, from Surrey back home to be a part of this, stepping up and stepping in. You know, if you want the future that you desire, you need to step in and help create it. And thank you all so much for being a part of this. And Marco, I'm going to stop the recording, and thank you so much for opening the conversation.cc to all of these conversations, these global conversations that are so important to have.
It's always my pleasure.
Done.